Well, the pieces are, for the most part, new. Five of them are receiving their first performance. The oldest piece goes back to 2007. It's a choral piece which I wrote for this department then. Professor Klebanow and the chamber singers in various configurations have performed it several times. But it is concluding the concert, and though I must say it wasn't one of the pieces I thought would be on the concert originally, when Professor Klebanow said she was performing it with the chamber singers, that would be perfect. And in fact have taken the title of this piece, this choral piece, This Night, This Moment, is sort of an overriding name for the entire concert. Most of the pieces, five of them I say, are new and are receiving their first performances. The most recent were just completed in August, so they're very new material. There's a set of songs which I wrote for the senior Keenan music scholar Julia Holloman, with fantastic accompaniment by Professor Mimi Solomon playing voice and piano. They are also songs gathered on poems by Louise Bogan that are about night, so it works well with the choral piece. The other pieces on concert, there's a piano piece I wrote for Professor Clara Yang. I actually wrote that a few years ago, but because of COVID, her family situation, a new child, she has yet to premiere. So this will be the premiere performance of that piece, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm bringing back Professor Robert Buxton, who taught here for several years, but just in the last few months took on a new job at East Carolina University. He's coming back to give the premiere performance of a solo piano piece called Three Alessandrins with Lullaby. These are named for my great niece, Alessandra Martinez. I wrote the lullaby when she was born a few years ago, and I've added some spin-offs from the material of the relatively simple lullaby, putting them in different musical contexts, and so that piece is actually starting off the concert. Last summer, my colleague Brooks DeWetter-Smith, emeritus professor in this department, flute player, celebrated his 80th birthday. As a surprise, I wrote him a solo flute piece. No sooner did he receive the gift than he started sending me recordings of himself playing it, working on it. Because of a recent health issue, he's not going to appear live, but he has, fantastically, he's recorded the piece, and we're going to play the recording. Piece Memento, which is for multiple cellos. The score says 4 cellos, but it is going to be played by 9. This piece was premiered by Professor Brett Wissick with the students in his cello studio a year ago. And finally, I think the only thing I haven't mentioned yet is a piece for electronic sounds and video, which I worked on with my wife. She and I have done a number of projects together in this manner, which I write an electronic score, and then she adds images to it. For the electronic piece, which I'm working on with my wife. Not I do the music, she does the video, but I just took a bunch of sounds that I had recorded over the last few years and just recombined them, did some adjustments to their sound, and modulated the sounds a bit. So the piece has a strange name, which if I say it fast comes out like symbolic garden, but it's written as SIM, which is standing for a cymbal. I recorded the sound of a cymbal in various ways. A bow, so there's a sound of a cello playing a bit. A bowl, there's a metal bowl which has a rubber ball swirling around it and had that sound. And finally there's the lick is actually me playing a little something on an electric guitar. And all those sounds are combined along with, quite honestly, there's other sounds from other sources that are in there, but those are the ones that got my attention, said I want to combine these things and see what I can make of them. The Memento piece, the one based on the Fernando Franco choral setting, the choral setting is itself very short. It exists in the composition for multiple cellos. The very first thing I did on that project was make a paraphrase of the Fernando Franco. I didn't actually just transcribe what he'd written. I took it and added some other parts to it and made it a little bit longer. And that was my offering to a very old friend of mine who was very interested in Mexican polyphony, the music from that time. And when I received the news that his wife had passed, I wrote this paraphrase as a kind of, in honor of her, and sat with it for a while and thought, well, maybe there's more to be said here. And I would like to say something about the songs, because this relates to this department in a real way. The songs, as I indicated, are on poetry by Louise Bogan. Last spring, I was teaching a music theory class, the third semester of music theory here, and I had the students write songs, as I often do when I teach that class. And to demonstrate the process, I wrote a song myself. To say, here's what I'm working on, and here's how it's going as I'm doing it. And I think I performed it in class a few times as I was moving through it, as they were also moving through writing their songs. And it was on a poem by Louise Bogan. And I finished it. I thought, I like this song. This is not too bad. I could exist outside of this class. There's about 15 or 16 minutes of music. For this concert, Julia and Mimi are doing 3 of the songs, the first, the second, and the final one from the eventual set, which I hope they find a way to perform sometime in the future altogether. But that was an interesting process, that it really came from something I wrote for a class here in the music department. Because the chamber singers are a class here in the department, they meet regularly. Professor Clement, I can say, okay, take out the Anderson, we're going to work on it for however long they do. I heard them a few days ago. So they've been working on it, I gather, since the beginning of the semester. They sounded great. So it's wonderful to have somebody who understands the music, has performed it a number of times, and knows how to work with a choir, because that's what she does, taking responsibility for doing it. So that I had no part in it, really, other than having written it many years ago. The songs they've been rehearsing this semester, that I understand they meet once a week and work on it. I heard them perform the other day, and I got to this. I don't know what to tell you. It sounds so great right now. The multiple cello piece is being conducted by Tony Kalam, professor in the department, orchestra conductor. It's great that he is overseeing it, and we have the benefit of Brent Wissick, who conducted it with his students a year ago, participating in the ensemble. For that particular piece, it's really great. We brought back 4 cellists who were students of Professor Wissick's and have graduated and gone out into the world and continue to play, who are coming back to participate in it. Plus we have a cello professor from Duke, cello professor from NC Central, and 2 graduate students from UCG who are participating. So it's a brings in, embraces a fairly wide radius of around Chapel Hill. To hear this music after another, and I guess I'm working on faith that it will all hang together, and that this is a good selection of pieces, and that it will be an enjoyable evening for the performers, for the audience, as well as for me. This concert is being streamed. I'm giving the link to friends far and wide, and I hope that we'll have a good combined audience who are happy to be here.